We start this morning with the growing debate about what the U.S. and its allies can and should do to combat the growing threat from the terror group ISIS. Yesterday, the policy debate was front and center in the pages of the New York Times. Secretary of State John Kerry, who was being sent to the region to build an international coalition, wrote, "Airstrikes alone won't defeat this enemy. A much fuller response is demanded from the world. We need to support Iraqi forces and the moderate Syrian opposition who are facing ISIS on the front lines. We need to disrupt and degrade ISIS capabilities and counter its extremist message in the media." And on the other side, Republican Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham wrote that regional allies are important, but ultimately, ISIS is a military force and it must be confronted militarily. Mr. Obama has begun to take military actions against ISIS in Iraq, but they have been tactical and reactive half measures. Continuing to confront ISIS in Iraq, but not in Syria, would be fighting with one hand tied behind our back. Senator John McCain joins us now from Cottonwood in his home state of Arizona. Senator, as specifically as you can you describe for our audience what a full-blown strategy against ISIS would look like?
A full-blown strategy would be recognizing that we now are facing the largest, most powerful, wealthiest terrorist organization in history, and it's going to require some very strong measures to defeat them. And they must be defeated, not contained. And first of all, we have to have a strategy. The president said he didn't, but what are our goals there? If you want to build coalitions, what are you telling our allies? That we want to save people who are stranded on mountaintops or protect American troops? You have to have a specific strategy to defeat ISIS, and that means, among other things, understanding that ISIS has obliterated the boundaries between Syria and Iraq, main headquarters being in Syria. So we have to get better weapons to the Peshmerga. We have to have airstrikes in Syria as well as Iraq. We have to arm the FSA, the Free Syrian Army. One of the biggest mistakes ever made, in my view, in recent times was the president's overruling his entire national security team, including the Secretary of State that argued 2 years ago for providing weapons for the Free Syrian Army. That was a seminal moment. Remember, the president said it's not a matter of whether, but a matter of when Bashar Assad would go. We have to have reconciliation between the Sunni and the new government in Iraq. And most of all, we have to have a clear strategy dictated by a policy, and that policy has to be, we have to defeat ISIS, not contain, not stop, but defeat ISIS, because they are a direct threat over time to the United States of America.
Let me pick up on that, Senator McCain. Are you saying we are at war and should say so clearly to the world and to Congress with ISIS? And does that also mean introducing special forces into the mix?
I think that it requires additional U.S. troops, not ground combat units, but it's going to require some more special forces. It's going to require some more forward air controllers. It's going to require some more advisors for training of the Iraqi military, which right now is, as we all know, in near collapse. And we have to also work closely with the Kurds and help especially with weapons, the Peshmerga, which is a very they can fight, and Iraqis will fight, but there has to be a policy and a strategy to implement that policy. And first, we have to tell, if we want to build a coalition, we have to tell those people what our goals are. And these people, by the way, are very cynical, particularly the Saudis and others, because we said we were going to strike Syria, and then the president reversed himself without even telling them.
Is this a war footing we should be on with ISIS? Does it represent that much of a danger? And should that be the organizing principle of the strategy whenever it's developed?
I think it starts with an understanding that this is a direct threat to the United States of America, that it may be one of the biggest we have ever faced. I was astounded when the President of the United States said that the world has always been messy and it's been accentuated by social media. That means that the President of the United States is either in denial or overwhelmed. He's either in denial or overwhelmed, one of the two, because whether it be Ukraine, which maybe we'll have time for a few minutes on, but that this is a direct threat to the United States of America.